Emotions are weird things. You never know if you've experienced one to its fullest extent until you do. I used to think I'd experienced a full spectrum of emotions over my lifetime. I'd been angry when a friend I trusted betrayed me. I'd been so happy when I married Mac, the man I loved. I'd been jealous during high school when I didn't feel as if my friends were paying attention to me, and I'd been scared so many times that I couldn't count them. I remember being scared when I was so little, scared of the monsters under my bed. Then I was scared when my friends dared me to go into the local haunted house. And later on, well, I've been scared about many things, but I won't bother you with that now. But being scared, being fearful, is an interesting thing. Just like every emotion, you never really know the extent to which you can experience it until you're thrust into a situation where you are subject to such emotions. Because what most people consider fear is quite frankly a feeling I'd laugh at now. It all started around 4 weeks ago. My son and daughter came home together from school. They were 1 year apart, and everything a mother could ask for. Some parents will go on about how their children are going through that phase or just won't behave. But I've never had those problems. Mostly, my children have been the joy of my life. They rarely misbehave, apologize when they do, and treat me with respect. My husband already arrived home several hours earlier. The kids had stayed late for extracurricular activities. He kissed me when he arrived home and then got to work on the house, fixing the faucet which had started leaking a few days earlier, and oiling the swing on the back porch which had developed a rather nasty creak over the summer months. When the kids arrived, we sat down to the dinner I had thrown together around 30 minutes ago. I'd just made a simple oven pizza with some vegetables on the side, so we finished it rather quickly. I kissed the kids goodnight, turned off their light, and headed off to bed with my husband. Rolling into bed, I reached for the nightstand, set down my phone, and turned off the light before dozing off. I slept extremely well. As a matter of fact, the first thing I noticed when I awoke was how alert I was. Opening my eyes, I looked around, registering that the room was still dark. I turned to my husband and tried to gently shake him awake. "Get up, Mac," I said. "Hey, get up, Mac. What time is it?" He didn't respond. I pulled the blankets off of him, thinking that maybe the cool morning air would wake him up. But that was when I realized he wasn't there. Something else was. A large, singular, old-fashioned potato sack, stuffed with what appeared to be rice. A red Y drawn roughly on it with some kind of marker or paint was lying where my husband had slept the night before. At first I was frightened, but soon I dismissed it as a silly practical joke. Mac had always been a prankster, and this was probably one of his dumb ideas of a joke. As soon as I thought this, however, a weird idea registered with me. It was nighttime, wasn't it? Mac knew he had an early day tomorrow, and he would never do something to jeopardize his work, like pulling a prank in the middle of the night. I reached for the bedside table and hurriedly grabbed my phone, which I had set there the night before. I pressed the power button, and it didn't turn on. That was strange, because I was sure it had been charged completely yesterday. It couldn't have possibly run out of batteries that quickly. Maybe it was just off. I held down the power button this time, and sure enough, within 5 seconds the screen had flashed on, the logo of the brand indicating that the phone was booting up. But when it turned on, I froze. staring at the screen. 2:16 p.m, 17% battery remaining. Why was it so late? Why was my battery so low? Suddenly, my heart jumped into my chest. I would be late for work. Looking back, I guess I should have figured that something out of the ordinary had happened, because Mac should have woken me up. But I didn't think about that at the time. Getting up to work had occupied all of my focus, and I threw my legs over the side of the bed and started heading for the door, brushing my frazzled hair into some appearance of decency. As I did, however, I glanced at my phone once more. 2:17 p.m, 3% battery remaining. 1 second passed, and the percentage whirled by. 2:17 p.m, 1% battery remaining. Flicker, flash, darkness. Now I don't pretend to know about computers or technology, but I've never seen the battery percentage whirl by like that before. This was the first time it really registered with me. Something strange was going on. I fumbled my way to the door in the darkness and felt for the light switch. Finally, I located it and flipped it on. Click! Nothing happened. A weird feeling caught in my chest, and fear rose within me. I glanced back at my bed. I could barely make out the potato sack still lying there. A weird smell wafted through the room. It originated from the sack. Shivers traversed down my spine. Something about it gave me the creeps. I turned back toward the door and wrenched it open, dashing into the hallway. I threw open the door to my son's room and ran over to his bed, throwing the covers off of him. I gasped, and the breath caught in my throat. A single potato sack stuffed with rice lay there upon his bed, and just like before, a red Y was drawn roughly on the fibre of the sack. At this point I was panicking. I remember dashing, stumbling to my daughter's room and throwing the door open, throwing the sheets off her bed, hoping to find my daughter still asleep. But all I found was another sack, just like the others. I ran to the front door, desperately trying to convince myself that it was some kind of sick prank. But this delusion was shattered. Perhaps the moment I tried to open the door, it wouldn't budge. I pushed it, shoved at it with all my strength, kicked it in desperation, and tried my hardest to open it, but it wouldn't. By now, tears had started trickling down my face. The situation was so unreal, surrounded by a sense of surreal foreboding, which tugged at every part of my subconscious. I didn't understand anything which was going on. My family had disappeared, replaced with strange sacks with red lettering on them, and I couldn't open the door. It seemed to be locked. From the outside, I ran, stumbling into the living room, frantically grabbing the poker which sat by the fireplace. Rushing to the kitchen window, I swung the poker at full strength, attempting to break it. Crack, clunk. The poker had broken the glass but jolted to a stop. It caught me off guard and I flew backward onto the kitchen floor, falling roughly and spraining my ankle. Glass shattered all around me, but I didn't pay attention to any of it. Staring up at the kitchen window, I realized that there was something black and sturdy covering the window. Desperately, I ran from window to window, trying to find a way out. But I couldn't. Every single window and door had been covered. My family was missing, and I was trapped. Mac and the kids wouldn't have just left me. Mac and the kids wouldn't have locked me in here either, but who did? Why were they doing this to me? I tried everything I could think of to break whatever was over the windows, but nothing worked. After several hours passed, I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, sitting in a corner of my room and crying to myself, shivering and shuddering, staring around wildly, trying to hide from whatever was watching me, trying to protect myself from what had done this. Several weeks have passed since this happened, and even though I was fearful at first, I don't know if it's really that bad. I'll run out of food and water eventually, but they've been nice to me at least. They gave me 4 bags of delicious rice to eat. I've used some of them up already. They let Mac and the kids come back to me too. I found my family's dead, rotting corpses packed neatly in the rice-filled potato sacks.